Okay, so the last but not the least kind of sleeve we are drafting now is a gang sleeve. If you're a Yoruba person, you know gangan. The way gangan looks is a structured sleeve. We call it structure because it has structure. So marking 2 inches away from the head of my sleeve first, and I'm going to show you the essence of that one later on. Although the ball is in your court, all this pen and marker there, they're scammers. The ball is in your court to do that. So now we assume that our sleeve is starting from this 2 inches away. This line that I've drawn now, just assume in your mind that this one does not exist. So we're starting from here. This same person I'm drafting for our sleeve head is 4 inches. It's still the same measurement we have at the initial stage. Okay, so we draw the 4 inches out like that. Alright, then we go ahead to around armhole length. That is 8 inches, but because this is going to be a loose sleeve, I'm going to use 9.5. okay, it's not the regular fitted one. This one is going to be loose at the armhole, so I'm just adding 1.5 inches more to make it 9.5. okay, then we go ahead and draft our diagonal line. Okay, so by now you should be able to depict what length the diagonal line is going to give you. You see, so we have 10.5. okay, we have 10.5. so half of 10.5 is 5.25. then normally we go up by 1/2 inch for the back of the sleeve. It's still the same approach. The more you draft, the more you get used to it. Alright, the more you draft, the more you get used to it. Okay, so this is the back, and the front too comes like the way we have always done it. Okay, you see, so this is the front and this is the back. Good. So now for this gang sleeve, because it's structured, you are not going to use, normally you're supposed to come down by 8 inches to get your bicep, but in this case you are not going to use your bicep. Okay, you are going to use at least the same round sleeve you have at the round armhole length. You understand? I used 9.5 here. Okay, so you use that same 9.5. That's the essence of making it wide. Okay, making it wider than the one you are supposed to use. If for instance you use 11 here, you can still use 11 here. It's going to be very, very okay. You come down here also and use 11. All right, it depends on how wide and structured you want it to be. Are we together? So you just come down here. Since we used 9 inches here, we're going to use the same, 9.5 rather. We're going to use the same 9.5 here also, and then draw our straight line. It's always a straight line. There is no shape. It doesn't usually have shape. Can you see it? Now you see the essence of of this 2 inches upward. On a good day, you're still going to pleat a little because you've made here wider than the original armhole. Okay, but then if you now want a kind of pleated head, sleeve head, that the head is coming up, you can increase the sleeve head narrowly. Not that it's going to come too high, no, it's just going to come narrowly up. All right, so which means that you are drafting from this side. All right, so which means that this is the one you are going to cut, and this is the area. At this area now, you're going to notch it to show you that that is where that puff is going to be. Okay, but if not, this is still fine. You can still cut from here. Maybe I should have used a different color of a marker to show you, in order to be able to differentiate that. Okay, so this is the one I'm talking about. This one here is an additional puff for your sleeve. So if you want that additional puff, you use this one. But if you just want it just a little pleat, you use the same original one that we have drafted. Are we together? So I'm going to cut from this side because I think I like that a little puffy from up. So normally we cut the back first. I've already added, let me just use 1 inch seam allowance and then get rid of every other one. Don't forget, on your sleeve, as long as you have allowance on your main bodies, you must have allowance, extra allowance on your sleeve. Don't be all those tailors that don't put allowance on sleeves. At the end of the day, by the time they want to amend the cloth, there will be space at the bodies, but there is not going to be space at the sleeve area. Okay, so this is the front. You can see, can you still see that puffy effect? This is the original one that we would have had, but now we have this puff here. All right, so this is the back and this is the front. So we're going to trim the front also. So because I'm going to add puff to it, I'll just cut it towards that puff area. Can you see it now? So this is the front, this is the back. If you don't have that puff, you know, this place is not going to be here, this place is not going to be here. It's going to be like, although it's not going to be this flat, it's going to still be curved. You would have cut from here, but because we have this puff here, that's why you trim your excesses from this side. So now we are good to go. On this particular one, we are going to sew it out. Okay, we're going to cut it on a fabric, and then we're going to add the structure to it in order for you to see how it is sewn, because this alone is not going to give you that gong effect. Okay, so this is our pattern. Like I said, I'm going to sew this one in order for you to be able to see the way it is done. So this is the pattern. Then for the structured sleeve, now the gong sleeve, you need this this paper stay, hard paper stay, or fabric stay, or wording, in order to, you know, give it structure, in order to make it stand. Then crinoline. So like I said, we have the color, hard paper stay. There are different quality or thickness. We have the soft one, we have the hard one. or you can use hard collar stay, that's a cloth stay. That one is more durable than paper stay, because paper stay after washing it gets soft, but if you use wooden or hard collar stay, those ones will be everlasting. The structure will remain the same. So but for the purpose of this tutorial, that's why I'm using paper stay. Then crinoline also, in order to enhance the structure. So these are the materials we will be using. So the first thing I'm going to do is use my pattern to cut exactly the same thing with my pattern. Please, if you are a beginner, make sure you pin everything pinnable, okay, because you may not be able to control the way I am controlling it. Okay, so this is my pattern, and this is my art paper stay. Now this is the fabric I'm going to use. Remember, the allowance we added was just at the side here. It was just here we added seam allowance. We have not added here, and we did not add here. So I'm going to add my seam allowance to this side, I mean the down part, and then the upper part also. Now if you don't want to go through all this stress before you cut your main pattern out, you can add your seam allowances, all right, just the way I did to the side. You can add it to every other places and then come and transfer it to your fabric. But if you've done it the way I've done it, all you need to do is to make sure that you add it to your fabric. So I'm going to add just half an inch seam allowance to the down and to the up. Okay, so just half an inch is what I am adding to the down. At the side you don't need allowance anymore because we've already added 1 inch. So here now you're adding your half inch seam allowance. When you now open it, you'll be able to trim the front and the back. So we are good. Now the next thing is for us to gum this paper stay to the fabric. Now this paper stay has a shiny part where the gum is, and the other side where the gum, there's no gum. So all you need to do is to just make sure that you face the gummy part to the wrong side of your fabric in order for you to have that attachment. You see, so your pattern will not get to your, your paper will not get to your seam allowance area. Can you see the way it is? It's not supposed to get there. It shouldn't get there because you don't need it. But I am leaving it at the side because if eventually in the future you need to increase the width, you still need the stay there, all right? But at the seam allowance where you are joining it, you don't need it there. So you can see here, when we are done gumming it together, that is when I'm going to trim the front from the back. So we are done gumming this now to the main fabric. Now we have lining. You see this lining, you can decide to use the same fabric to line your sleeve, or use a contrasting color. There's no, I mean, you use lining itself, there's no difference. But when you're cutting the lining, make sure that it's shorter than the main fabric, because you're going to drag it up. Okay, so especially if you are now using lining instead of the main fabric, your lining will not be showing under the sleeve. So I've reduced it by 1 inch. Okay, I've reduced the lining by 1 inch, and then I'm going to sew on it. So the next thing we are going to use is our crinoline. This is 2.5 inches crinoline, I guess. There are different sizes. Okay, this is 3 inches. There are different sizes that you can use. This edge, you're going to use either your paper tape to clip the edge, or you use light or fire to burn the edge, so that it will not be gumming or it will not be choking the person wearing it. Alright, so I'm just going to leave a little up, then I'm using a contrasting color so that you will see what I am doing. Okay, just sew it just where your pattern is. Then, like I told you, I don't have my fire here to just cut it. So I'm going to use it. So this is the way it's going to look. Now I'm going to use this my paper tape to just cover the mouth, so that it's not going to hurt the person that is going to wear it. It's as simple as this. So this is hemming gum or hem glue, whichever one you call it. We are going to put it here in order to keep this end in place. Just run it through and iron it. So we are done putting this one in place like so. So the next thing we are going to do now is we're going to sew the sides. Now there's something we call inseam technique. Okay, that is, you are not going to see the seam outside at all, or the seam line rather outside. I'm using a contrasting color so that you will see what I am sewing. So the same thing also is applicable here. sew your desired seam allowance out of it. Okay, if you have picked 2 inches seam allowance, make sure what you have picked is 2 inches seam allowance. See, I'm not even done. It's already giving us that structure. The person is slimmer than I, so but it's going to work. So now that you've sewn your lining and the main structure and the main fabric, sorry, so the next thing you do is you turn it to the right side like so. It might look a little bit, tricky to turn, but you just have to turn it. So this is going to be right facing right. Are you seeing it? Where it's inside, make sure your right is facing right and your seam allowance is inside the seam allowance. Okay, so you see, this is the seam allowance. You put them edge to edge like that. You can see that this place is already short, so by the time you finish, you drag it inside and it's going to be fine inside it. So you now sew it. Make sure you open your seam line, open the seam line, before you sew it. Don't sew the seam folded. It's going to make it feel really, really bulky. So don't forget, we are joining it on that same 1/2 inch allowance that we left. Good. So you now pull the lining out like this and then drag this one inside. So you make sure your lining also comes to the edge of your fabric. That's where the dragging comes in. Your seam must align. So what you are doing here is just basting. You are not sewing up to 1/2 inch. Just is temporary stitch. Basting is a temporary stitch. It's just to put the 2 pieces in place so that you not be struggling with it. Then you can achieve your dragging effect. So when you are done dragging, the next thing you do is top stitch because of that crinoline effect. If not, it's not going to stand. like I said, I'm using a contrasting color in order for you to be able to see what we are doing. So here we go. So this is our gun sleeve. Gun sleeve. So you see how structured it is. It's standing. It's not my sleeve size. I would have worn it. So that is how it's going to stand. Now it depends on how wide you want it to be, and that's how it's going to be structured on your body. Okay, so if you want it to be fuller than this, fine. If you want it to be narrower than this, it's fine. But the bottom line is structured. It's structured, is standing. Even if she drops her hand, it will still stand and it will remain there. Okay, so thank you for watching. Remember, the original sleeve we had was 9 inches, right? So you're going to measure 9 inches from the end of your armpit here to where the 9 inches is, and then notch it. Okay, which means that the whole of this place is what you are going to pleat. So you can pleat tiny, or you use needle and thread to gather it together. So at the end of the day, it's going to form, look at it, it's going to form this puff effect or puffy effect on it. You use your needle and thread. This is where I notched. This is the beginning of the notch. You pleat it, you pleat, you pleat to the next place where it's going to. So you see this, the puffy effect now. This is how it's going to be. So what you are going to do is just to use your needle and thread to gather it. Once you gather it, then you'll be able to sew it. This will now become the center of your sleeve. So you start sewing and sew and sew and sew around. So by the time you finish, your structure is, I really love the puffy aspect of it. That's why I added it in my own. But if you don't like the puffy aspect, well, just do your regular sleeve and here you go, you're good to go. Thank you.